Thank you for allowing me to speak. I hope you also appreciate my passion. As I say, in all seriousness, what is wrong with you? You all sat week after week at your listening sessions across the state, and the number one issue that you heard was childcare. It's the biggest issue, the cost, the lack thereof, and still you did nothing. You have been told by various surveys that between 80 and 90% of your constituents want to fund childcare. Apparently you don't care about your constituents. I don't know. You were also given the data that in the last 2 years of childcare counts that it was implemented, that it did work. It stabilized the industry, and that had been declining for decades. And you were given the research that it did work at improving the wages for us. It went from $10.66 an hour to now we're at $13. And that's still pathetic. We pay people to care for our dogs more than our children in the state of Wisconsin. But still, you voted no against funding childcare counts, knowing very well that without childcare counts, providers will close their doors at an accelerated rate. You were also given the data that those providers that do try and stay open will be increasing their tuition between 20 and 30%, with 26% being the average. Childcare is just going to be for the wealthy then? Because that's what's happening. So you rejected childcare counts, and then to make it worse, you created a false narrative about childcare, about my profession. You said it was a handout, quote, to private businesses. Or why should the people of Wisconsin have to subsidize an entire profession? Well, we can ask the industries that you do subsidize the entire one, like agriculture, energy, construction. What's the difference? They're male-dominated. That's the difference. Apparently, those fields, just as she read off what carpenters, what bricklayers make an hour. Why is it okay for us? Why do you sit there and think that's okay for us to make that kind of money? To not have a living wage? So, I could even go on. Can you get that, please? I got to drive the bus. That's what I'm supposed to do right now, is drive the bus to pick up the kids. I had to get coverage on this short notice. But I could bring up like Foxconn. How many billions did you put into that with the context that it's going to create jobs? What do you think we do? When we take a child, we are creating and allowing somebody to work. We are the workforce behind the workforce. Think about when COVID hit. You closed down all the schools, everything. Who did you ask to stay open? It was us. You asked us so we could be there for those nurses, for those doctors, for those police officers to work, all of which are parents that I serve in my center. The other false narrative that I keep hearing on replay is that childcare counts cannot be sustained. I am honestly surprised that any of you can say that with a straight face. Over and over again, you have been told and shown and explained that childcare is an investment, and it's a good one. For every dollar we spend, the rate of return is $7 to $16. Every year, Wisconsin loses over $1 billion because we don't have childcare. So don't tell me it's not sustainable. And childcare is a public good, just like our school systems, which we have both private and public. It's a public good. You keep talking about the business plan on us not working. It's not. It's Wisconsin's business plan is not working. That's how you need to think of it, not our business plan, because of course it doesn't work, because we're a public good. That's not how it works. Your state business plan is not working for our economy. Your decisions are hurting our workforce, harming our children. You are costing our state more money by not enacting. So, to not sit there and say that you're coming up with a solution when the solution already exists, you already know what it is, and then you say like, oh, let's do this. And the proposed bills, honestly, are a slap in the face to our profession. 16-year-old, really? You act like that's what parents' choice is, either safety or have a spot. I mean, that's what was written in the paper, right? That parents are more concerned about having a spot than they are at regulation perfection, which is safety and quality. Why should our parents in Wisconsin think that they have to choose between having a spot and quality of care? That's the option, that's the choice you want to give them? That's not okay. With these bills, you have laid bare what you think of us as a profession. I pretty much knew it anyway when you constantly refused to meet with childcare professionals, to not listen, to not include us when you're making policies, the people that live it out. I already knew that. You view us as unworthy babysitters. And how dare you think that adding more children for a teacher who's making $12 an hour to care for, to educate, and to keep safe is even an option? Like, that's gonna help us? That's gonna help families? How does that reduce their costs? How does that improve the wages? We have a teacher shortage, and I can't imagine a quicker way to lose more teachers by throwing more kids in the classroom with them. And I can't even, you completely miss the point about children that have special needs as well. Like, the expulsion rate in childcare is already 3 to 4 times that of the elementary and high school combined. What do you think is going to happen with that expulsion rate now? That's costly to us, besides being morally wrong. Furthermore, to completely ignore what researchers, pediatricians, and alike say about what best practices and the well-being for our children, to just ignore that and think that that's acceptable for Wisconsin, for our children, who should be the most important commodity to us, but who incidentally is also the highest population of our state living in poverty. And I don't see any support for that. Making these statements, it's obtuse for you to think that this is okay. To think that you didn't have a choice what to do when you had the choice. Childcare counts. And what are you going to do on the 20th? Gavel in, gavel out? I am under no illusion that me coming here is going to change any of your minds. I know that. I mean, half of you are asleep. So I get it. But I am here because I'm going to make sure that everybody in the state knows when they can't get workers for their business, when they can't get childcare so they can't work, or when their child gets injured, or God forbid, death, that they'll know who needs to take responsibility for that. Because you are making those choices. And it is a choice that you are making by limiting our choices, by not listening to us as constituents. So, if you have any questions, let me know. I have a group center. I have rooms that sit empty. I have teachers that make nothing like they should. I've been struggling. Before COVID, I had a classroom that sat empty because I couldn't get teachers. So it's frustrating to hear, let's come up with a solution. It's there. You chose not to take it. You chose to go another route and attack quality and act like your hands are tied. Evers is going to veto it, and then you're going to say, oh, we tried. I mean, we know what this is.
Okay. Questions? Yes, Representative Snodgrass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your testimony. I just want to I know how difficult it is to sit in opposition of people in power and to share your personal experience and your thoughts on things that are likely to not be received positively. So we sit here with the microphones and the fancy titles, etc., but we're just people. And so thank you for speaking truth to power there. And I would suggest, and my question, I guess, is we have a projected $4 billion surplus in the state of Wisconsin, as I'm sure everybody's widely aware. How would you spend that in helping people like you and your business?
I would help our state by doubling the 365. We need our wages to go up. $13 isn't okay. We need it to go up. And you will see the return. You will see the decrease in our criminal system costs. You will see the decrease in special education costs in our public schools. You will see an increase in people's income base. You will see a decrease in people leaving the state. Minnesota, who has about the same population as us, has twice the child care providers. They're quite a bit more supported in Minnesota. And I don't understand why we are supposed to hold our breath for the federal government to do something. When this affects our state, we lose billions a year because of this. Billions. So why aren't we taking care of our state? Why isn't Wisconsin fixing its business plan?
All right, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative.
I just want to thank you for keeping truth to power and having the audacity to care. And, you know, again, I want to ask you really quickly to remind me of that figure, because that was the question that I asked earlier. What is the dollar amount that we get wrong? Like per dollar, what's the return on investment?
$7 to $16, and the higher rate, the $16, the younger the child. So that just goes to show you how critical those early years are. Babies are the ones that will bring in the $16 rate. So, and unfortunately, the way it is under 2 for centers, we lose money when we accept those. So that's why you're seeing program centers right now closing down their under 2 rooms. That's why there's such a shortage of under 2 care, because we can't charge what we need to make that work. But I guarantee you, including throwing more babies in there, that's not the answer. So.
Quick follow-up. So for so based off that rate of return, right? Do you believe that that is a sustainable amount of dollars to make a recurring investment in childcare?
Absolutely. James Heckman, who's a Pulitzer Prize economist, has a whole, he has researched this and said that investing in early childcare is one of the best investments a nation can make. This is why Wisconsin is, the United States is one of the last states ranked in industrialized countries for early child care. We spend 0.03 of our gross domestic product on child care. That's pathetic. The other countries are spending money because they know of the return they're going to get. Just like we have the worst incarceration rate. For some reason, it's okay for you guys to support putting a 13-year-old in a juvenile paying $700 a day, but you won't do anything preventative. And yet, there are children that don't have a chance, and yet you expect that we all have the same opportunities. You cannot have a child that lives in generational poverty, that has violence in their neighborhood, that has addiction in their home through no fault of their own, and expect good things to happen to them without some kind of intervention. You can't expect anything different. When we aren't setting them up for success, we are setting them up for failure. It's shameful that our largest population in poverty is our children. That's not okay.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Carly Eaton of Wanakee Blue Green Alliance, speaking against.